Take stock. Experts told us to use high-tech race components and a proper competition gearbox, but that went against our build-it-cheap principles, and as it was, we were already breaking the producer's budget. Reconditioning the engine with stock parts cost another £2,000, taking the total bill up to £30,200. And remember that doesn't include labour. It was time to attack the problem from a different angle. So, we went to a wind tunnel. To go 10% faster requires 33% more power. So to take some strain off the engine, we thought we'd try and improve the Esprit's aerodynamics. As you near 200, the wind resistance increases exponentially, making each mile an hour ever harder to achieve. We hoped a more slippery shape would let us cut through the drag to hit our target. Using 4 huge fans from an old Air Force bomber and smoke trails to trace the turbulence, we could see where the improvements were to be made. The first suggestion was to lower the car, to reduce the amount of dirty air beneath it. So we fitted some new springs for about £600. Taping up some of the ducts made a marginal improvement, while removing the wing mirrors helped a lot, letting air pass down the side of the car more easily. But the biggest improvement came by removing the rear spoiler, which creates a lot more drag than it does downforce. Add a Perspex panel over the engine bay and the airflow is much improved. As a result of all this, the drag coefficient was reduced by just under 17%, which by Mara's calculations should mean an extra 12 miles an hour and a theoretical top speed of 206. But what a computer says can happen in a perfect world and what you can actually do in the real one are two completely different matters. So here we are, back at Woodbridge, full of hope and fully specced up after all the smoky dramas of the last time here. But to make matters worse, it's been raining. The surface is decidedly wet, which not only makes the getting going harder, but more importantly, makes the stopping even more difficult. Hey-ho, 200 miles an hour on a budget. Here we go. Once again, the boys from Thames Valley were along to prepare the car. They seemed confident. They'd seen 190 miles an hour on a test run. But after 10 months of setbacks, you can probably understand I was a bit nervous it would all hold together.
First run of the day and just a gentle cruise at 60 miles an hour to calibrate the GPS speed monitor and to give it a bit of a shake left and right to make sure everything feels as it should.
With the engine and my heartbeat warmed up, I made my way to the end of the runway.
Right then, run number 1 and hopefully the engine is going to run cleanly. Oh, plenty of wheel spin in first, up to second. More wheel spin, short shift in third. But it's not wheel spin. I don't believe this, up to fourth. It's a clutch slipping. What I thought was wheel spin, I don't believe it. It's clutch slip. Oh, 5th gear, cruising.
There was nothing for it but to limp back to the pits area. And I wasn't amused. While I went to find something to kick, the damage was assessed. 30 minutes later, and I was back in the car. The clutch plates had been cleaned up, but they were well worn. We were told we'd only get one more run in it. Join us after the break to see whether we reach target 200. We're halfway through our quest to do 200 miles an hour on a tight budget. And just to prove it isn't a flight of fancy, we invited along a couple of other home-tuned cars that had already been there and done it. This is the Fensport Corolla. Its 2-litre turbocharged engine develops 700 horsepower. It's taken £35,000 of parts and 3 years of effort to develop. But earlier this year, this unassuming little car managed an official 200.4 miles an hour. It was here to show us what could be done. Piloted by Adrian Smith, this car has four-wheel drive, so it's awesomely quick off the line, even in the wet. On his first run, Adrian managed over 180, so he waited expectantly for the second. But even the experts have their off days. And unfortunately, the Corolla destroyed its gearbox shortly after the start. Just goes to show how difficult this 200-mile-an-hour game can be. Bring on Rod Tarry's Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. The standard model kicks out a fairly healthy 200 horsepower, but Rod's made a couple of tweaks, and his car's got 850. Mind you, it's taken him 6 years to develop and £43,000 to achieve. His mate, Mark Sheed, helped to build the car, and today he was behind the wheel. Naught to 100 in 7.15 seconds. 0 to 150 in 13.2. Question is, will it beat its current record of 206.1 miles an hour? Incredibly, he stops the clock at 206.0. Not bad for a wet autumn day, and proof at last that it really can be done. Over to me and my Lotus, but with the clutch about to fail, this would be a death or glory run. So we armed ourselves with a secret weapon. The Wizards of Noz had fitted £520 worth of nitrous oxide kit. Just hit the trigger and another 100 horsepower would be released. When they tested it, they'd got wheel spin in third gear.
Well, if I was nervous about the durability of the car before, you can imagine how I feel now. There's a potential 600 horsepower under my foot. Even if the clutch, engine and gearbox hold together, this car's still only got standard drive shafts. Parts that Lotus originally got from a Rover Metro. Oh yeah, and it's raining again. Okay, let's use all the 2 miles of runway available. Last roll of the dice, gently feeding that poor old clutch to build up the speed. Third gear, 101 miles an hour. It doesn't feel as that's pulling perfectly, but it doesn't matter. Fourth, 130. Hit the nitrous. 160, 170, 72, 70. Oh, I'm out of brake. I have to brake. I've got to brake. It's not gonna do it.
Even with the nitrous, there was no punch at the top end. Something, yet again, was wrong. Back at the pits, my greatest fears were confirmed. The engine had lost its compression. Time and money had run out. It was the end of our project.
I can't believe that's the end. Surely not, Tiff.
That's it.
So how much did he spend in the end, then?
£31,320.
I mean, it didn't work, but why? Why didn't it? What happened to it?
Well, on the day, I think we had that problem. We burnt the piston before. And I think the whole thing about making more power with the turbos and the nitrous, you've got to get this air-to-fuel mix right. Otherwise, the pistons run too hot. Well, it might have just burnt the valve slightly or something like that. I'm sure it's only a little thing to rebuild and it'll be fine. We're ready to run again.
You mentioned this nitrous. I've not had a go in nitrous.
Yeah,
I mean, what's it like? Is it proper? Push the button.
Yeah,
off you go.
Hammer time.
Off you go.
Do you reckon that's busted?
Probably, I don't know, but the whole
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. To be honest, you got beat fair and square because there was a geezer out there in a cardigan. He was driving one-handed, doing 206 miles an hour in a white Sierra.
So if you're going to have another go, surely you'd change a few things. What would you do different?
nothing. We're on the right track.
It's just the producers have put the thing up for sale before I bankrupt the programme. But when they took 6 years with that, we could get away with it. It just needed one more run.